The canopy of the Amazon is a war zone where sheer mass and muscle dictate who survives. A jaguar, heavily muscled and driven by pure predatory instinct, stalks silently through the damp undergrowth. It is the undisputed king of this domain, capable of crushing a caiman's skull with a single bite. But suddenly, the massive cat freezes. It does not look up at a larger threat. It looks down at a creature no bigger than a paperclip, resting completely exposed on a broad green leaf. The jaguar turns and walks away. In the brutal mathematics of the wild, a predator should never retreat from a meal that cannot fight back. But there is an invisible law, written in electric colors, that even the apex killers obey. To touch this microscopic speck of life is to invite instantaneous, irreversible death. In the wild, survival usually depends on camouflage, speed, or armor. Yet the golden poison frog sits in the open, radiating an arrogant, vivid yellow. It makes no attempt to hide from hawks, vipers, or big cats. It flaunts its existence because it holds a biological weapon so devastating that evolution has granted it absolute immunity. The secret lies in the microscopic glands lining its skin. They do not produce venom to inject. They secrete batrachotoxin, a highly complex neurotoxin that does not just poison an attacker, it violently short-circuits their entire nervous system. A predator that makes the fatal mistake of letting its tongue graze this amphibian will experience explosive convulsions, complete muscle paralysis, and heart failure within seconds. A single frog carries enough of this chemical payload to shut down the organs of a dozen apex predators simultaneously. To understand the true power of this chemical defense, you have to look at the frog's origins. The frog is not born with this weapon. It is a biological thief. It hunts specific species of toxic beetles and millipedes, extracting the deadly alkaloids from their bodies, refining them in its own stomach, and pushing the concentrated poison out through its pores. It weaponizes its prey to become an untouchable god of the forest floor. And as for its own immunity, evolution slightly mutated the sodium channels in the frog's nerves. The toxin works by jamming these channels open in other animals, causing an electrical overload. But the frog's channels have a microscopic structural shift. The poison simply bounces off. It is a locked door that the deadly key no longer fits. While the rainforest floor broadcasts its toxicity in bright yellow, the shallow tide pools of the Pacific Ocean hide an entirely different kind of assassin. Imagine a tiger shark patrolling a coral reef, a perfect killing machine forged by millions of years of evolution. Yet it will actively alter its swimming pattern to avoid a creature that could comfortably sit in the palm of your hand. The blue-ringed octopus is a master of deception. Most of the time, it is a pale, unremarkable beige, blending perfectly with the crushed coral and sand. But the moment a shadow crosses it, the creature ignites. Dozens of iridescent neon blue rings pulse across its skin, flashing like a bioluminescent warning siren. It is a visual threat display, demanding absolute distance. Unlike the frog, the octopus is armed with tetrodotoxin, a chemical compound completely different from batrachotoxin, but equally terrifying in its efficiency. It is housed in the creature's salivary glands. If a predator ignores the glowing rings and attacks, the octopus delivers a bite from its razor-sharp beak. The bite itself is completely painless. A victim might not even register the impact. But within minutes, a chilling numbness sweeps through the body. Tetrodotoxin blocks nerve action potentials, slicing the communication lines between the brain and the muscles. The terrifying reality of this toxin is that it leaves the victim completely conscious. A predator, or an unfortunate human, remains fully aware as their voluntary muscles shut down one by one. The diaphragm paralyzes. Breathing stops. The victim simply suffocates in their own motionless body while their mind remains trapped inside. It is a flawless, silent execution mechanism that ensures nothing ever attempts to eat this tiny cephalopod twice.
These tiny creatures use chemical warfare as a flawless shield against the giants of their world. But while the frog and the octopus rely on defensive warnings to stay alive, there is a miniature creature hidden in the sand that actively hunts with a chemical cocktail so bizarre it forces its victim's own biology to turn against them. And we are going to expose that terrifying evolutionary hacking right now. Buried beneath the pristine white sands of the Indo-Pacific rests the geographic cone snail. It lacks the terrifying jaws of a shark or the crushing coils of a python. It moves at an agonizingly slow pace. Yet, it possesses one of the most sophisticated and terrifying hunting mechanisms on the planet. When a fish swims too close, the snail extends a highly flexible, fleshy tube called a proboscis. Hidden inside this tube is a hollow, microscopic harpoon carved from a modified tooth. The snail fires this harpoon with the speed of a bullet, piercing the scales of the fish and instantly injecting a complex cocktail of hundreds of different toxins. But it is not just the speed of the strike that makes this tiny creature a nightmare for anything in the water. It is the sheer deviousness of the venom. One of the primary ingredients in the cone snail's arsenal is weaponized insulin. The moment the harpoon strikes, a massive overdose of insulin floods the victim's bloodstream, causing an instantaneous, catastrophic crash in blood sugar. The fish is plunged into hypoglycemic shock. It becomes completely lethargic, its energy reserves instantly vaporized. As the fish floats helplessly, paralyzed and confused by its own crashing metabolism, the slow-moving snail completely engulfs it. It is an apex predator wrapped in a fragile, beautifully patterned shell, using highly advanced biochemistry to conquer animals exponentially faster and stronger than itself. From the depths of the ocean back to the suffocating heat of the South American jungles, we find one final tiny creature that has chosen pain as its ultimate deterrent. Predators operate on a risk versus reward calculation. The bullet ant exploits this calculation by maximizing the risk to an incomprehensible degree. It is roughly the size of a pumpkin seed, but it commands the absolute fear of every mammal, reptile, and bird in the canopy. The bullet ant does not rely on camouflage, and it does not possess lethal neurotoxins meant to kill. It possesses something much crueler, poneurotoxin. This peptide specifically targets the central nervous system to induce pure, unadulterated agony. When a predator threatens the nest, the ant grips flesh with its mandibles and drives a stinger deep into the tissue. The resulting sensation is not a simple ache. It is often described as walking over flaming charcoal with a 3-inch rusty nail grinding into your heel. The pain does not fade after a few minutes. It burns with relentless, agonizing intensity for 24 uninterrupted hours. The venom causes intense trembling, cold sweats, and a violently elevated heart rate. A single sting is enough to send a massive predator fleeing in a state of absolute panic. A swarm of them can incapacitate almost anything walking the earth. The bullet ant does not need to kill you to win. It simply needs to make you wish you were dead. These miniature masters of chemical warfare prove that pure physical strength is an illusion. Size is irrelevant when your very touch is a death sentence. If a creature weighing less than an ounce can command the absolute respect of the world's most terrifying predators, what other invisible weapons are hiding in the shadows of the wild? Subscribe to NatureCrest and join us as we dive deeper into the dark, incredible mysteries of evolution.